Live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Jay Johnson has now visited, at my direction, the border 5 times. He's going for his 6th this week. He then comes back and reports to me extensively on everything that's taking place. So there's nothing that is taking place down there that I am not intimately aware of and briefed on. This isn't theater. This is a problem. I'm not interested in photo ops. I'm interested in solving a problem.
All right, folks, the now infamous statement, the president's not going to the border, he's not interested in photo ops, he's interested in solving the problem. Joining us now, once again, I'm very happy to say, is president of the Coalition for a Secure Driver's License and former senior policy advisor and investigator for the House Judiciary Committee, Brian Zimmer. Great to see you again, sir.
Great to be here,
Thanks for coming back. Okay, let's talk about this question that I've always had and people seem to ask from time to time. Can we secure the border? Didn't we start building a fence? Did we ever finish the fence? I know that answer is no. Why did we not finish the fence? Can we finish the fence? Now, you are intimately familiar with the legislation that was written to build a border fence from your time at the House Judiciary Committee.
Correct.
Explain this to me and try to answer all those seemingly simple yet probably complicated questions.
Well, first of all, the idea of fencing the border is a very new idea historically for Americans. We've had relatively open borders with our 2 neighboring countries for more than 100 years. The fence on the Canadian border was there actually was a coast-to-coast fence there, except for a few areas of mountains that was taken down during the Carter years. There have been many business and political reasons not to build fences on our borders. So when Representative Duncan Hunter first proposed a fence, substantive fence for this California border, it was met with a great deal of opposition, ridicule, etc. So fortunately, an earlier bill passed in 2005, the Real ID Act, created the option for the Secretary of Homeland Security to override environmental and lawsuit type oppositions. Although it didn't prescribe a fence, it simply said if the Secretary needs to build a fence, where he needs to build it or she needs to build it, they have the legal authority. And it limits judicial review to the courts of the District of Columbia, so you can't have just all sorts of wildcat lawsuits. Although they continue to come up and then they're dismissed. But in 2006, the Secure Fence Act of 2006, also initiative of Representative Hunter from San Diego area of California, was overwhelmingly supported because in the meantime the American public had decided a fence was necessary. However, in a way the fence bill was less than the American public thought it was, because they saw the name, they didn't realize it was only a partial fence. It was about not quite 2,000 miles of border from the Gulf to the California coast.
And how long was the fence?
The fence was less than 700 miles.
Okay, so less than 700 out of 2,000 miles.
Was what was actually, and the Fence Act, if anyone wants to Google it up, actually prescribes where the fence will be built. And that was because people wanted fences in Arizona, New Mexico, and California. The public supported them. There was much less support in Texas, and there's still a lot of opposition in Texas. Potentially from the governor.
Really? Why would that be?
It's a cultural concept. Texas has a very large number of people of Mexican extraction. They may have been in Texas for 5 generations, but they've gone back and forth across the border comfortably, just driving across. And so the governors of Texas responding to the public, to that portion of the public, didn't see it that way. Also, Texas is flat, except for some mountainous regions in the southernmost part of Texas. It's got it's mostly defined by the Rio Grande River Valley. And so that's been flat, open, pastoral country with people moving back and forth. And in general, those prior to building the fences, there was not that much illegal traffic through Texas on in terms of, and now people from Central America.
I wonder where Governor Perry would fit now, or would weigh in now on that issue.
Well, we'd have to ask him.
Now, so how much of, as we sit here now, approximately how much of the 700 miles that was accounted for in the bill has been built?
About 690 miles. But the fence bill didn't specify what kind of fence should be built. So most of it is single strand. The Border Patrol then, in their informal advisories to Congress, advised us we'd be much better off building a double strand with a road in between, which is what exists at San Diego.
I would assume
and
that would
also
make sense,
at El Paso, yes. But there was such an urgency to build a fence to please the American public, and especially the residents of Arizona, New Mexico, and California, that this was put up in considerable haste. However, it is very, very substantial single-strand fence. It's buried the posts are buried 6 feet in the ground, and there's 3 feet of concrete under most of it.
Pretty secure, yeah.
So it's very hard you have to go down a long way to tunnel under this.
Yeah.
And generally the only tunneling that's occurred has been near urban areas for the purposes of drug smuggling, not human smuggling.
Right. So, I mean, do you believe that there's a need for, or that there would be popular support for someone else, maybe a Duncan Hunter or someone else introducing more fence, maybe another, I don't know, from 700 to 2,000, the other 1,300, or maybe half that or something?
Well, one of the unusual advocates for a fence is Senator Schumer from your own state, who is part of the author of the Senate immigration bill.
Don't ever put Charles Schumer on me in any way, shape, or form. I have nothing to do with him. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I'm just saying he is one of the people that added another 700 miles of fence in the Senate bill, and that's really a high-quality fence.
That's in the Senate bill that passed the Senate?
That's correct. Okay. In obscure, it was added and then further improved when they were trying to get additional Republican support. But there definitely were Democratic senators who do understand that there is going to be continued pressure. One of the things that I want to share with you and with the public is there are about 7 billion people out there on the planet. A large percentage of them would like to come to the United States.
Sure.
Okay, if you have public figures in the United States talking about amnesty, massive amnesty, whether it's Senator Schumer or the president or McCain from Arizona, it's a big green sign out there. And while the message in our country may be somewhat nuanced, when it gets overseas, a couple thousand miles away, it's like a telephone exchange. Exactly so. When you repeat these things, it gets like, let's all go to America. The President Obama is going to give us all. So even though he's publicly, putting out an advertising campaign now, it's going to be hard to straighten out that message because for 6 years there have been a lot of people saying that very prominently. So it's going to attract not only people from Central America, but from all over the world. Now, imagine all the Syrian refugees and the Iraqi refugees that are fleeing that chaotic environment.
Yeah, if they're making excuses, when I say they, the left, the Democrats, the president, that these kids are persecuted or escaping gangs, you're right. The Syrian refugees, there'll be other refugees. I mean, from the Gaza Strip. I mean, all would be welcome, and it would be crazy. Let me ask you one other question about the defense. How effective is it where it is? In other words, if it were to be built,
it's very effective. That's really why right now first of all, there are about 750,000 people that are in some way impeded every year on the Mexican border. Okay, our apprehension rates are about 350,000. The GAO, the Government Accountability Office, an authoritative source, recently said they estimated that fewer than 60% of the people who attempt to come in are being interdicted. So that means that although they're stopping 350,000, at least another 350,000 are getting through. Now, those are probably not the kids.
Yeah, no, sure.
They're going to be grown up, and they're again, Government Accountability Office estimates that 90% of those who make it through are trafficked.
Yeah.
Now, they're trafficked because they paid somebody.
Right, right.
Okay.
Like,
so,
a lot of the kids, that's what's happening with them.
Well,
now,
but the higher value trafficking is 30,000. Now, let me ask you a question, Steve. Do you really think somebody from Central America can afford $30,000 to get trafficked through?
You would think not.
You would be correct.
Yeah.
So the higher value trafficking are people who can afford it and who have probably other agendas, been getting a day job as a gardener.
We got a minute. So let me ask you this unfair question in a minute. What's the answer?
More fence. More fence. And
National Guard, too?
Not yet. I think we'll have to reassess how many Border Patrol we need, but this is going to be kind of a permanent problem for the United States. We're a very rich nation, and there are a lot of poor nations with worldwide television, and people saying, come on in. People are going to be coming.
They're going to be coming. It's a very Very serious situation, not to mention the health concerns and every other concern. And now, of course, the president asking the governors to accept these kids all over the country when we don't even know what shots they've had or what disease they might have or be carrying or whatever. Always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much. Great to see you, and your expertise is unmatched. Stay where you are. Folks, that's Brian Zimmer, president of the Coalition for a Secure Driver's License. Don't forget about that. And former senior policy advisor and chief investigator for the House Judiciary Committee. You know, the president's coming under more and more scrutiny every day for not going down to the border. And we know why. He doesn't want photo ops. He misspoke. He doesn't want that photo op. He doesn't want to be photographed with those kids in cages. That's what he doesn't want. Make no mistake about that. Okay, folks, we're coming back with another Gimme 5, and you're not going to want to miss this. It's the Palestinian side of the war with Israel. Don't go away.